Alright guys, so we're getting ready to do the actual install of the supercharger. Here on the table I just got some of the tools I'm going to use. So I got my 3/8 inch Milwaukee impact wrench. Got a set of 3/8 millimeter socket set, extension in case I need. A 3/8 ratchet, I got one. Just a pick here for our electrical connections, and this is actually just a battery post cap. It'll come in handy when we disconnect the battery. Some shop towels, a couple of trim removal tools there that we'll need for pulling off some of the Christmas tree connectors. So why don't we move over to the truck itself here. Okay, well, hopefully you guys can see what we got going on. So a little bit about the truck here. I got the MSD spark plug wires. It's got the E3 spark plugs, Speed Engineering long tube headers with a Borla 8-tack catback exhaust, a Mighty Mouse catch can. For the intake itself, I left the stock box on there. Generally the airflow is not too bad in these stock boxes, but I got rid of the Helmholtz resonator tube that goes on here, the big bat wing. So it's just an air raid tube. And then basic tuning that we've talked about in other videos. So this is what it looks like right now. So we're going to be getting ready to start disassembling some of the components here in the engine, so that way we can begin the install process for the supercharger. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to get rid of remove the intake assembly. So we're going to start off doing, the very first thing I'm going to do actually is we're going to see how dusty this engine is. We're going to blow off the engine, take a pressed air and blow the dust out of the engine bay as much as we can, mainly the loose stuff. I'm not going to focus too much time getting every speck of dust out of there, but we do want to get a majority of it. So we're going to go first do that. We're going to blow down the engine bay with compressed air, just get all loose dust. Then we're going to start removing the intake system, beginning with the air raid, getting the pipe. Then we'll start needing to, the next thing we're going to do is start disconnecting our connectors. So we'll have the map sensor here we're going to disconnect, the throttle body connection on the other side. We'll disconnect our purge solenoid off of here, the EVAP purge solenoid valve. Then there's going to be the wire looms on the two sides of the intake manifold. So we will need to, that's where our Christmas tree connections are at, so we're going to take our trim tool and pop those out. So it might be hard to see, but those are those white or grayish zip ties that we got along here. So these guys right here, you'll see. And then on the very back there's a anchor connector. That's another Christmas tree type connector, and that's where we're going to use our trim tool to try to get back there too. It's got 4 connections. We're going to pry those loose. Then I believe we got 8 bolts that hold down this plastic cover. Once we get that removed, then we have, I believe it's 10 intake manifold base bolts that we got to remove. So once we have that off, we can remove the intake assembly completely. So for this video, we'll start doing that. So let's first, actually the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over there and disconnect the ground cable off of the battery, and then we'll blow down the engine bay here. This is just a 10mm socket. Get that on my extension. And then I have my battery post cover there we'll use to make sure that we don't get a connection again and cause a bunch of fireworks. So for our post, it's in there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is blow off the engine bay. So again, I'm not trying to make this spotless this way or thinking I'm going to make it spotless this way. The goal is just any loose dirt, I want to get that out as much as I can with the engine bay. Okay, now that we did that, we can go ahead and start removing some of these electrical connections. So to help me out, I'm going to use my pick here. Just taking so we're going to be removing our throttle body connector here, and also our map sensor here, and then we have our evap purge solenoid here. I'm going to be just at this point just disconnecting this, and I think we'll start with those three first, and then after that we'll start to disassemble this intake pipe. Alright, so now we're going to remove these Christmas tree connections here, make it easier to get these connectors. So now we're going to start removing these 8 10mm bolts. Okay, it may not be 8, looks like it's 4. Okay, so we got the 4 10mm bolts that hold on this cover. Now we got to Alright, so we got the map sensor disconnected. We have a throttle body disconnected from the connector. I got the evap purge solenoid hose pulled off. I still need to get off the connector. And now I'm working on the base bolts for the intake. The only thing left will be the Mighty Mouse PCV, or the Mighty Mouse catch can. So we got one hose I need to remove. That goes directly into the PCV valve here. This other one on the LT4 clean air goes into the intake on the side. So that one's probably going to be on there pretty well because it's been on for several thousand miles. So I'm just going to probably unscrew it and scratch catch can until I pull it out. But so just remaining is this PCV valve or the hose to the catch can, one hose to the catch can, a couple more base bolts, connector here for the evap solenoid. And then once I got that, at least when I got the base bolts loosened, I can pull this intake out, and then we can work on getting those Christmas tree connectors off of the back of this plate here, and we ready to go to the next step. got the intake out. Whew. Now what I'm going to do is stuff some shop towels in the open ports there so we don't get any debris that fall in. And then we can start attacking that Christmas tree connector on the back of the cover there. I'm just doing this temporarily until I get that cover off, and then I can clean it up and put tape on it. So you don't want stuff like that to fall in that intake port. Pop off that Christmas tree connector. Just going to try this really long trim removal tool. I got a whole bunch of these things. Let's start with this long one. Oh, I can see right there. One. Phew. All right. All that work for probably aesthetics and sound detonation. But there we go. Luckily, the wires back there, they're all wrapped in tubing, and there's a bunch of tape, so I don't have to worry about. Even though it looked like I was scratching the crap out of that thing, it's damaging the wire. Alright guys, so there we go. Intake was the intake itself was not too bad. It was held on by I think 10 bolts. So you pulled off the throttle body sensor, or sorry, throttle body connector, map connector. You got purge solenoid. I ended up just taking out that one bolt. I'll pull out this connector later. And we can go ahead and throw that on the supercharger, I guess, since it's off. Way back there is that Christmas tree farm of nightmare. There's four of those Christmas tree pegs. It's not too terrible, but having to stretch so far into this engine, it can be a mess. So you can see, obviously, there's a lot of dust in here, but what surprises me is the amount of bugs, just large items. That's why I threw in the shop towels in the intake ports temporarily until I got that cover off. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a vacuum, just vacuum all these large debris out of here, clean up these intake ports, the gasket service there, and then get ready to put on the ICT billet adapters. So, get the vacuum and start working on that next. Oh, and then here's the PCV system. So you can see on the L83, the PCV, it's pretty similar to the LT4. LT4's PCV is actually over here, but this L83, just like I mentioned earlier, I got a catch cam. So we got the dirty air coming out of this PCB, going into the dirty air port on the catch cam. We got the clean air port coming out, and for L83 it goes directly into the side of the intake manifold. L86, I think it's up here in the front. So we're going to reuse this on the LT4. I got the 90-degree barb, if you guys remember, on the bottom of the supercharger. There was a port on the bottom. So what we're going to do is just put that barb on there and fit this guy in there. So we'll have dirty air coming out to the catch can, clean air coming into the bottom of the supercharger. So let's get the vacuum and clean all that junk out of there. Okay, so we got all the big bugs and large sand, all that cruft out of there. And what I do now is take a shop towel and start cleaning up the around the intake ports so we can get ready to put the ICT billet adapter on.